hit the gym with me.
We've talked about the gaming historian, Norm, the gaming historian, right?
Yeah, I just watched his Oregon Trail thing. I thought it was it's the same quality you expect from him. You know what I will, the one thing that always pulls me out of a gaming historian video, can you guess what it is?
Those like illustrations?
Yes, it's those webcomic ass illustrations.
Yeah, because they don't fit the style.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You would need something that would be more akin, like I don't know, like a Civil War reenactment photo or something. But yeah, they're just like, they really stick out to me as like, why is like a Penny Arcade cartoon in here for some reason?
Well, because everything else that you're watching, you would see on like WGBH documentaries or something, and so all of a sudden, when like this like internet, this thing that's kind of like suited for Reddit or something comes up, you're like, this doesn't fit. Whereas I like when he went out like to that university and he got those like beautiful wide shots of the campus and stuff, that those nice tripod shots of the campus. I was like, this is kind of setting a nice stage. And this one, more than his past videos, it felt like he went on location and shot more.
Yeah, and the interviews are really good, I thought, too, and added a lot. So
yeah, and it's one of those one of those gaming curiosities where it's like that was in every school. Everybody has an experience with Oregon Trail.
Yeah, I didn't even realize it started off as like a text adventure thing for ancient S like teletype PCs or whatever.
Right after he released that, I don't know, 2 or 3 days later. And it was an hour and a half long movie. It was a full blown documentary. When YouTubers do that, when they make like they release maybe once a year, twice a year, they work their asses off on it. It's 7 hours, it's 2 hours, it's 14 hours, whatever. When they do that, I always think like, maybe not like there are certain creators like a Quentin Reviews or something where he makes a 7 hour thing. It's not that well produced. Like you can kind of understand how how 7 hours got slapped together the way that it did. But for Norm, it was pretty meticulously put together, researched, scripted, quite nice.
Yeah.
And
it had a narrative, yeah.
And I always think like, wouldn't it make some sense to try to put this behind a paywall? 90-minute movie. I mean, giving away 90-minute movies for free.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know. I feel like this is it, man.
You think this is the best way to monetize that content? Is just get the ads?
So what I think what Norm did was right. You start off with like making a name for yourself, and then you can do that luxurious, bigger content.
Like,
and people will be bought in.
It's been up for 3 weeks. It has 612,000 views, but that's an hour and a half. And I imagine that it's pretty well viewed, probably. So, we all know that watch time is. So if you got 2 million views, but it was a 10-minute video, that is actually going to yield a lot less revenue than if 600,000 people watch all of your 90-minute movie, right? So sure, he probably got a big payday on this, but and I think, how often, let's see how often he uploads per year. Let's see. So yeah, he did the first cartridge, the story of the first video game cartridge 10 months ago. And then 3 weeks ago, he made the story of Oregon Trail. So he does not upload often. Like when he did the story of Mario Kart, that got 2.3 million and that was a 50-minute video. So maybe that's interesting. I know Mario is more marketable than Oregon Trail, but.
So yeah, he has 2,235 members and he has 3 tiers, $1 tier, $3 tier, $7 tier. So he's doing pretty well.
What about his? Let's see. I think his ad revenue is not that great. Social Blade, which I found like the higher end estimate, it tends to be pretty accurate on this thing. Socialblade.com. They estimate $63,000 in just the YouTube ad revenue. So add that to what you just said. I think we're probably talking about $200,000 a year that go into his pocket. And so he's not the gaming historian doesn't have fuck you money.
No, it's like it's a well-paying like office job, and you probably have gotten promoted a bunch of times.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. And it must enjoy doing it, right? So he gets to talk about cool video games, meet developers, and only has to put out 2 things a year. And well, so he put out this thing to his patrons or somebody. This went out. Hello, everyone. For the past 2 weeks, I've been on break, unwinding from finishing my latest documentary on Oregon Trail. I have to admit, it has been nice. I've been played video games for fun, not research. I worked on some tasks around the house. My air conditioner needed a cleaning real bad. I've gone on long walks with my wife, Kristen, and I picked up woodworking projects I had abandoned a few months ago. During this time, I've also been reflecting on my life and thinking about the future of Gaming Historian. While I still enjoy making the show, it consumes most of my life. Whenever I finish up a big project, the immediate thought in my head is, okay, next video. I'd like to get back to that feeling of wanting to make a video rather than having to make a video. There are also other things I'd like to pursue and accomplish, and I don't feel that it is possible while making a YouTube show full time. So I've made the tough decision to permanently take a step back from gaming historian. Permanently, EJ. There's nothing sinister.
What, really?
Yes. There's nothing sinister behind my decision. I just felt like it was the right time. Because I will no longer be producing the show full time, I'll be shutting down my Patreon effective May 1st. I first launched the Patreon back in 2015 when I made gaming historian my full-time job. It was a huge help toward not only financial security, but elevating the production level of my content. But since YouTube will no longer be my full-time career, I'm not comfortable collecting donations anymore. If you'd like to continue supporting the show, the best way you can do that is simply watch videos on YouTube. I also plan to stream on Twitch from time to time, so I hope you'll pop in and say hello. So what will I do with my new free time? I'm going to keep improving my woodworking. I'm planning on visiting my family more often. I'd like to finish my master's degree. I'm also co-hosting a history/comedy podcast with Kristen, something we've wanted to do for a long time, an old-timey podcast coming soon. I do want to make one thing clear. Gaming historian is not going away. It will simply go back to being what it was when I started the show 16 years ago, a hobby that I work on in my spare time. As always, thanks for watching, Norm.
Wow, you're telling me this for the first time.
You just died? Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time.
He was a wonderful man. He did a great thing.
So Elton John's playing in the background.
Oh, that killed me. I didn't expect that.
She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman.
I'm like, I have to do the ear thing where he's like trying to listen intently.
I don't want to talk about Norm anymore. What's the Elton John song that they're playing in the background?
Just died? Wow. I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman.
All right, let's say it about Norm. Let's give Norm a send-off that he deserves. What can you say? He was an amazing man. He was an amazing woman. When I first saw this for the first time, my first thought was, oh, I'm glad he's got money, because the young man, I think he's about my age or younger, and I don't think you can live off of the YouTube backlog for the rest of your life, right?
I wouldn't think so.
He's probably paid off his house. That's good.
He's got a master's degree he's working on.
Yeah, so he must be planning to rejoin the workforce. It's a wild thing.
Yeah, I don't know, man. He did it. I mean, if that's what he wants to do.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's going. He doesn't. Does he? Do you know what he is going for his master's for?
He didn't say.
Be interesting.
He's telling me this for the first time. He maybe he talked an awful lot about woodworking during that whole thing.
Yeah, he did. Maybe. No.
Maybe he wants to work with his hands or something. I don't know. On the one hand, you read it and you relate to it. You know, because we've all been on the. If you make content, you're on this like content treadmill. Mike Matei has talked about that before. He's like, I just wanted to get out of the treadmill. You know, this next video thing. This whole like, I better go over to my computer and start editing thing. So I get it. I get it more because it's not my job actually. So it's much more tempting to quit. But obviously there's the aside from the fact that there's a financial component to it for him, there's also kind of just like, once you gain an audience, you don't want to just ditch an audience. It's not easy to gain an audience. It's also not easy to make money. Making money is hard. And so walking away from money is obviously that's always something to be admired to some degree. But all I can think is like, are you sure? Do you really need to quit? Well, I guess he's not, right? He said like, no, I'll be doing be doing it whenever, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's very healthy. I mean, I can't imagine, but, especially because like he's upping his game so much, and it's like he's so like you can tell that he's like the little animations he does with it, like when like the little like computer animations that you would do throughout and stuff like that, and it's like
he's quitting on top. What I do know is just quitting your job one day because you realize that your job sucks without like a backup plan or something is pretty ballsy. I mean, it's not something I would ever do personally. I've talked about one time when I was a busser when I was 16, I rage quit. But other than that, I think I would always got to kind of find the next thing before you, but maybe he's got a plan. When we were talking about it on Discord, our friend Anthony was like, good for him. He doesn't owe anybody an explanation. Do whatever you want. And like, I relate to that. I understand that, this sense of like, hey, you don't owe anybody anything. It's your time. You can do whatever you want with your time. But I did have to push back a little bit on this idea of like, you don't owe anybody anything. Cause it's like, well, if you cultivate an audience, then you have a relationship with that audience and you do owe them something. Be like you and I are friends. I wouldn't just stop taking your phone calls one day. Like, I don't, fuck you. I owe you no explanation. It is. Yeah. So the question is like, is the relationship with the audience akin to, or similar enough to a friendship that it is a relationship at the very least that you do owe them a statement like this at the very least, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have backers, you have collaborators, you have like an ecosystem that you're kind of in. So there is like, there is some damage that you're doing, like, I mean, it's not damageless is what I'm saying.
I would think
it might be worth it. It might be worth it if you think it's like physically, like you'll be better off afterwards if you think that damage is worth it, but you are doing some damage.
I would think by far the easiest thing to do would be to hire some slobs. This is very slobbable content. I think this is much.
I don't know anything about his process. I assumed he did have slobs or something.
He must, but if he feels like he's buried by work, then he must not be delegating it enough. Because you could decide like, all right, instead of quitting and just turning off the money spigot, I'll leave it on. I won't quit publicly or anything. Maybe, a la Scott Lawaz, maybe announced like, hey, I'm bringing on new researchers and like for content like this, you could totally do that. Like I'm bringing on new researchers, and nobody would care. Continue to be the narrator. Right.
You think Ken Burns does every second of his documentaries? No, I bet most of it is delegated and his name is on the top.
Whereas AVGN is quite different where like the comedy has a voice. Now granted the documentaries have a voice, but even that voice in this particular case is kind of aping the Ken Burns PBS thing in the first place. So I think he could totally I think he could probably make easily like 6 of these that are 45 minutes per year and just have like several crews going and just oversee them. Get together as a team, come up with who's doing what. Take a way smaller cut of the money. But at least the thing can keep living. And then if you ever want to go back to it or you ever, you always have the option. That's just how I think.
That's how, but maybe that's not his personality. Yeah. Maybe he's not one to want to delegate. Maybe that sounds like misery to him to delegate that much. But he maybe does delegate. I don't know what he delegates. So
it just seems like it's just killing a. Because this is not like AVGN where it's like, oh my God, the joke is dead. Oh my God, there's nothing left to do here. He could do this forever. Just talk about something, he could talk about modern games. He could do this forever. You could do the N64.
A new retro game every day. I mean, like Xbox 360 is retro now and the PlayStation 3, or the Wii is retro,
The history of LucasArts, the
history of, the Wii Motion Plus. You could do anything.
Yeah. This could go on for years. So I don't know. Still, obviously, I thought the communication was pretty well managed, and he's a well-liked entity generally. Pretty inoffensive guy.
And you want to see him make some tables in his garage or whatever.
Yeah,
fuck.
yeah, you do, you do. It does startle me when somebody just quits their fucking job. Like what? When the thing could continue to be sustained, but hey. More power to him. A respectable decision. Another one bites the dust. Another YouTuber quitting.
Blue Jean Baby.
I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time.